So what we could do, just to try one of the variations of registration that we talked about, is to use that flute registration. Yeah. So you need to have, because the cantus is in the pedal, you need to have substantial bass, you know, and because it's long note values, I think 16/8 might be enough if we take just the 8-foot flute and the 8/4 on the second manual. So let's try with that. You have to play with the 8/4 in the right hand. Remember, we said that you should always look for the sound which is a little more clear for the right hand, and the left hand should be a little bit in the background, kind of not dominating. Otherwise, it sounds very strange. No? And definitely not higher pitch in the left hand. Definitely not. Almost never. Okay.
So.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, no. An octave high. Yeah. Is that okay? Or?
Yeah.
Or sorry, the other way around. Yeah. The coupler. Yeah. You have to play. Thank you. Thank you. So moving in slow 2 could be a little bit faster perhaps. With that kind of pulse in tune. No? Let's discuss together what kind of figures, what kind of compositional ideas does Böhm use here? Tell me what you heard. Tell me what you find. Not only Isaac, but you are welcome too. Yeah.
Almost canon.
Canon, yes. Almost. Yeah, that's kind of the, I think, idea. He's going to do something like that, imitation canon. Yeah, but almost.
The problem with the B flat to the B on the third line there, it sounds very strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just to turn a corner.
Uh-huh. So that has to do with I think, modality, and seems strange to us 7/8 that he first has the B natural and then the B flat, you know. My experience with mean tone temperament is that it's so pleasing at the end also to have, and that difference between the B natural with the pure major third and then the B flat, B molle is all very expressive also. So that's something I noticed, these kind of changes of thirds quite a lot in the earlier generation. Okay, what kind of figures?
Upwards going scales.
Uh-huh. So what kind of figure is this? Suspiratio, suspirans, yeah, anabasis, different names that we could use, right? So the idea which you start with is ti dam pa, right? and then goes. And then he varies, so he adds the thirds, which I think when you play the pedal, you were talking about anabasis, short figures, you know, kind of with small accent, right? So this is very important to see. The main idea here in the first phrase is this suspirans, suspiratio, anabasis, general tendency, and then what happens in measure 4? Different figure. Still an anabasis, but
Shortening.
yeah.
Faster.
Yeah. So a scale, a tirata going up, you know, or two together, sort of. And then we have this mesanza, I think Joel called it, right? Yeah, so you see, the problem with the beaming, and when we see lots of 60 notes, is that we don't discover the figures. So we play playing the notes. So we have a wonderful variety of figures there, which you need to think about and how to bring out. So we can do that with different fingerings. Let's just make a little effort here. What do you use, Isaac, there?
And for
Yeah. So you use now 4 to 1 kind of, and then move to 4, 3, and then again 4. What do you think about that? I think it's a beautiful way to bring out the figures if the pulse would be on the quarter note level. But I think it's a little dangerous and really hard to manage it on that level when you're moving more in 2. So I would use more position fingering. That means starting with 4, then going to 2. So I have the third, and then already on the B flat go to 4. Again 2. But I would have in my mind the shaping. So I would try to play the refined pattern of the more difficult motive-oriented fingering. Try to implement that in my touch, you know, but using more position fingering because it's a little faster. Okay, that's just a detail. Any other figures? You are figure finders, right? So we basically have the scales, and it starts in the second phase in 7, 8, nicely to go down, right? Yeah. Catabasis, not anabasis. Big change, dramatic, you know. Okay, and after that, scales, scales, scales until 11. Yeah, arpeggio, yeah. There must be something, you know. And then we are back, Isaac, right, in 15, 16, yep, to the first figure, ta ti ti tim ta 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 tam. And then a little different variation, 19, 20. So we see the 3 main figures that he presents are either ascending or descending, suspirans, scales, or arpeggi. And then he varies this along. This is not what we find with Scheidemann. This is not what we usually find by Beckmann. In a 3-part setting of this kind, the figuration would be more consistent, one type all the way through. But not, and more on the half note. Here you find a detail-oriented approach from Böhm, which provides for a lot of expressivity, wonderful quality. Okay, so let's continue with that in the evening or the afternoon class. Yeah, very good. So let's see what we do next, just to get an idea about the trios and what we find. Yes, let's do Freu dich sehr um meine Seele. So we have two, maybe Julia plays now, yeah, yeah, and we can take turns, yeah, yeah. So here we need to hear the middle part. We have a cantus firmus. The cantus firmus is not in the bass, but it's in the middle part. Yeah. So one possibility is to take the reed like Julia's playing now. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. I think maybe the regal with a forward, yeah?
Ach so, ich muss nicht die Oktave höher und so spielen, okay?
Ja, oder...
Oder ich habe so...
Oh ja, das ist okay auch. Dann habe ich einen Vorschlag so. Wir machen das mit Oktave 4, was ich im Konzert, und dann hier auch unten, dass beide Hände unten stehen. Ja. Ist das okay? Ja. So we were discussing different options. One is to have a reed for the cantus firmus, then you could use maybe a principal in the right hand, you know, string figuration, or to scale it down and say, let's have the cantus firmus with a principal, and then you can have flutes in the upper part. And here we now have the registration I used in the recital with the flutes 4 and 2 in the second manual, which you can play an octave lower. Right? And then you can play with a 4-foot octave also, an octave lower. And then 16/8 perhaps in the bass. Okay? So it's a little challenging to play an octave lower with the right hand now, but we know that. And okay. So when you listen, think about the things we discussed with Künste der du bist Tag und Licht. What kind of motives, what kind of ideas, what kind of composition is this? You know, have that in mind, so we can have a nice discussion afterwards. Okay.